in exercising that right to vote, in researching candidates and policy ideas, the more prepared they will be at the age of 18 to vote in state, in national elections. So we don't have to go through a whole constitutional amendment process to open it up to all elections. We can start with something small, start with something local and understandable, and build that habit, lifelong habit, of being able to participate and see how that participation results in change in the community itself. And to return to a point that Councilor Mercer made, that this would have to go to the state. That doesn't mean it's out of our hands. Doesn't mean that it's out of your hands. Because it was, in fact, a lot of the teams behind us here today that are responsible for this coming forward in the first place. And there's no reason why their participation down at the State House can't further drive the success of this petition down there. I think that the message would be really that the more active you are, the greater the chance you have to get things changed. And just because something's law doesn't mean that it can't be changed. And so, you know, certainly you don't want to provide some kind of false hope, but there is hope, and things can be changed. And I wouldn't want to overlook that either. So the only further thing I would say on this particular issue is to keep at it, to stay involved, and to keep pushing for that change. And you might actually find that things do turn around in the future. Thank you.
Further comments or discussion on this issue? Councilman Dawson.
Yes, I agree with some of the points that have been made by the people who came to the podium, especially the point about taxation, because if you have learned your history, you realize that the reason this country came to be was that they didn't have representation, yet they were being taxed. So I like that point that was made by one of the speakers. You do work at some as early as 14, most after the age of 16, but between the age of 16 and 18, they still charge you income taxes and other taxes, yet you aren't able to vote. So I think that was a very good point. And I agree with Councilor Murphy that there's no reason we can't proceed to at least ask. We don't have to say no on our own. We can put it up to the state legislature and see if they will act on it. That's part of the reason why I brought up the point of having a subsequent local election to accept that. I personally feel that it would have a better chance of passing the legislature if they saw that there was going to be a local election following that where the residents of the city would adopt it or not, depending on how they feel. So if it got that far, you would have to lobby for that. There would be a campaign for that to make it happen. But there would be more likely for it to come back. In the packet we received from the city solicitor, it did state that the Attorney General has argued against it in the past and would probably argue against it again. But if there were a local election to accept it, again, might stand a better chance of getting back to the city in order for there to be a vote. The downside of that is, of course, that it wouldn't happen quickly. Even if we got it in to the legislature today, by the time it came back to the city, and then we scheduled another election, it might be not in 2011, it might be in 2013. The question is it worth moving forward, or does that mean that because you don't benefit from it, we don't proceed? I personally think we should go ahead and proceed. I would recommend that it have the local election acceptance as part of the provision to bring that forward, and it would increase its chances. And again, I thank all of you for coming down and showing support for this. It's, again, great public participation, and as my colleague stated, it would be good if we got this kind of participation in other issues as well. So stay involved, come down. Even though you are maybe not eligible to be registered to vote yet, speak on issues that are important to you. And just one correction, and the solicitor can correct me if I'm wrong, you do not have to be 18 to register to vote. You have to be 18 to vote. So if you are going to be 18 on election day, you can come down and register to vote while you're 17. So that gives you at least maybe up to 6 weeks. And the other point I'd like to make is that if you are able to vote in municipal elections at 17, with the possible exception of those that have birthdays in November, you would be 18 for the next state election. So that would not, in my opinion, cause a problem with state elections. And in the packet that I have regarding what that law that requires you to be 18 applies to, it specifically lists which elections that applies to, and it's state offices. It doesn't say anything about local elections. So that leaves us with a small opening, small because the legislature was thought to pass this, to try and get this through. So I would support sending the measure to the legislature and then see what they do. And that would mean that if they go there, you have to allow the legislators to get it through.
Thank you. First, I would like to say to all of you who are here that you have already achieved your goal, because just by your presence here, even though we cannot make this change, you have contributed to city government, and so you should commend yourself for that. That's a great achievement. We rarely see 17-year-olds or 27-year-olds and 47-year-olds in this room, so thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that. Now, I want you to understand there are logistically some questions that have come up tonight that are valid, and something that we haven't heard is that the way we have our state elections every 2 years, every second group of 17-year-olds will not get to vote. So every other year, 17-year-olds will have an opportunity to vote, and then there'll be a series of 17-year-olds who don't get to vote, and then again. So some of you, even if this does pass in the State House, some 17-year-olds will get to vote, and some will not. And also, if it's true that you have to re-register when you turn 18, this is and always will be your responsibility. And I don't want to lecture you at all, but someone mentioned empowerment, and power cannot be given to you. It's something that you have to take responsibility and own yourself. And so whether or not this passes, and I again commend you for being here and I support the idea of it, whether or not it passes, you are still all responsible for the future of your own city and country, and you are taking on that responsibility. So thank you very much for being here.